growing up, one of my favorite games to play on our Xbox was Need for Speed. I was obsessed during that time with the Ford GT, the best car ever made. But I was like, I'm going to beat the game with that car. My brother caught on. He saw how much I cared about the car. He didn't really understand it. One day, he was messing around on my game. I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'll let you do whatever you want to my favorite car in my game. And I was like, okay. He goes, the only thing you got to do is stop 3 shots. We're going to go out to the park. If you block all 3 of them, you can wreck my car. You can sell it, whatever you want. If I score 1 goal on you, I get to do whatever I want to your Ford GT. We went out there and he takes the first shot on me and I save it. I'm like, come on, dude. He's like, no, just let me take one more. He rockets a shot at me. It scares me a little bit, but he puts it right at me. And so now I'm running away with it. I'm getting way too overconfident. So he backs up and he's like, tell you what, man, we don't actually have to do this. And I was like, no, take the shot. I'm ready. Game over, right? He takes a couple steps back and he goes, you sure? Wham!
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Thrash Talk Podcast. It's me, Sleep here, one of your hosts. I got my boy Keith Gable with us. We're stoked to bring you another episode this week. And we got a good one for you. We got our guy, Zach Miller, Team USA. Keith, tell us about him.
Yeah, thanks, Sleep. Super stoked on this one. This is one of my US teammates. Zach's an absolute beast on the snow and pretty good dude off the snow. I think you guys are going to really have a good time. He's a 2023 ESPY recipient for Best Athlete with a Disability. He went to the 2022 Games in Beijing. He's a 2-time world champion in the team event, border cross and bank slalom. So that's awesome. He's won a couple other medals as well. 1 silver, 2 bronze, and 18-time World Cup medalist. So super stoked to have Zach. We had an absolute blast. I love the kid. I've known him since he was just a kid. So I can't call him a kid anymore. He's got a deeper voice than when I first met him. And, he races like a grown man, which I love.
He's so young, man. And being in the space and seeing him grow, I imagine has been super cool for you to see him come up and to have accomplished what he's accomplished. Crazy impressive, man. Having an ESPY, not many people have ESPYs. So I love that. I'm stoked, and I'm stoked for everybody to hear it. But for now, let's get over to Zach Miller. You.
So Sleep, I want to ask, how is the kiddo's ankle? Bro, give us an update. What's going on?
Oh, man. Dude, I almost got in a fight.
What? Oh, the nicest dude I know. Really?
No, I didn't almost get in a fight. Somebody almost wanted to fight me though. So
nice. All right.
So, man, I got to tell you about the basketball thing too. Getting cut, then not getting cut. Maybe we can talk about that later. But soccer. So my daughter plays competitive soccer here in Texas. Pretty big deal. We are out pretty much every weekend, multiple times a weekend, playing all over North Texas. It's kind of like one of the best places in the country to be a soccer player because top level talent comes here to play. You think about Oklahoma, you think about Nebraska, you think about all these. Well, they come to Dallas to play their tournaments because, it's an epicenter, right? For that. So high level soccer here. Had a tournament a game on Wednesday. She was dribbling the ball down the wing. Played a ball pretty far in front of her. Nobody was in front of her. A girl comes in from the side. A girl goes for the ball. My daughter Peyton played the ball pretty far out in front of her. The girl just trucked her bad. She went out of bounds, rolled her ankle pretty good. She went down pretty fast, and I stay out of that. I'm like, I told you, I text you, I'm just going to stay back. I don't want my feelings or influence to have any effect on her, right? You know what I mean? If I walk up and I'm like, oh, are you okay? She's going to be like, oh, it's bad. You know what I mean? Or if I walk up and get up, I don't want her to feel the need to get up and keep performing. So I just kind of stayed back, walked away. But I was pretty hot because she got hit pretty hard. It's my kid, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, the doctor came over, the ref didn't really call anything. I felt that he should have. The doctor came over, started messing with her ankle, said, hey, you're out. You got a mild or moderate ankle sprain, which really doesn't mean much. I learned it doesn't really mean much to have a mild or moderate ankle sprain. So anyway, I walked to the car. She's on our side of the field. She can't walk back to the bench. I'm not going to make a show of walking her back to the bench. So she's sitting on kind of the parent side now in the bleachers. So I walk to the car and get her Crocs. And as I'm walking back to the field, like another girl gets plastered, and I kind of gave the ref some business, and I felt bad about it afterwards. I shouldn't talk to the ref or anything like that, but I was like, hey man, come on, like these kids are getting hurt. We already got my kids hurt, another kid's gonna get hurt. And there was a mom behind me, like neck tattoo, like giant fake lips, and she starts laying into me, and I'm on, like, you kind of separate the sides of the field. Like the one team's parents are on one half, the other team. So she's behind us on our parents' half, starts laying into me like, hey, soccer, let him play the game. And initially, like, my reaction was like, get back over on your side. Like, what are you doing over here? Get back over on your side. And then my second reaction was like, I want your kid to play hard. Your kid play as hard as she wants. I want all these kids out here playing hard, because that's what matters, right? It's between me and the ref. Like, your kids, like, if my kid hits somebody, I'm like, maybe she was going hard. She was going for the ball, missed it, hit somebody, call a foul and move on,
or don't.
So yeah. So exactly. So I stop, I sit down and I stop, and she's like kind of 5 feet behind me, giving it to me with her husband, who's a little bit bigger, her significant other, bigger dude. And he's like, come on, just leave it. And she is just laying into me. And I'm chilling out. And I heard him say, look at that tiny guy. What is he going to do? And I'm like, oh man. Oh man. It hurts. It hurts. Yeah, I know. So I was cool, calm and collected, sat there. I agree. I shouldn't have yelled at the ref. But I was heated. I was heated. My kid got hurt. You know what I mean? I felt that they were going kind of hard. And again, I'm all for those kids going hard. But yeah, when he was behind me, I like kind of just giggled under my breath, like, he's small. What is he going to do?
Like, I trained 5 days a week for that comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's funny. You don't know, man. You don't know who's out there. And now everybody trains. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's so many people that are out there doing jujitsu, doing Muay Thai, boxing. Heck, I mean, you can do it from your own home, right? You can learn combos from your own home. I mean, you're not going to learn pace, movement, anything like that, but people can train everywhere. So, very interesting experience for sure. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I got to cool down. I felt super guilty after it for sure. And I feel guilty even talking about it right now.
Well, I mean, that's the passion of being a dad, all that kind of stuff. And like, all is well that ends well. Nothing came of it. It is what it is. Like, if nothing else, your daughter knows you got her back. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't think too much into it. Maybe the other parents are like, oh, dang, sleep got heated.
Oh, dude, I am the coolest, calmest, most collected of all those parents, man. Those parents go hard, man. Yeah. And I feel bad for the officials a lot. Like, man, they make pretty decent money. I think they make like, $60 a game. So it's not like they're hurting anywhere here. $60 hour and 15 game, hour and a half game, depending on how long. They're doing good.
Right. They're probably repping 3 games a night or afternoon or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But they do have to deal with a lot of parents, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I don't envy him. That's for sure. I don't envy him, man.
Well, Zach, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, if I was one, you would have to turn it off. I don't know if you could pay me enough to do it. Seeing some parents go at him.
Well, so yeah, totally. And I was just gonna say, Zach grew up playing soccer, so I mean, I'm sure he can relate in some way, shape, or form. I mean, that was like his go-to. I mean, you should see this guy juggle a ball in the gym. He's sitting there doing all these. Dude, he's so good. He's
really? So good. Tell me about it, man.
Yeah, actually, I grew up with an older brother who was like he was like the sports hero at my school, which is probably a big reason why I'm so competitive today. But yeah, man, that was his sport of choice, was soccer. And he was good, dude. He was so good that come his senior year, they had given him the name Magic Man, because he would be on one side of the defender, and then with a quick, shake of the hands, he'd just be on the other side. And there was no explanation as to how he got there. He, to this day, actually still holds the mile record for the presidential fitness at that school.
Oh,
and he ran it. He that day, he forgot his like gym shorts, and his coach was like, well, then you're going to run it in your skinny jeans. And my brother was like, really? And he's like, yeah, you're not exempt. You're going to run it in your skinny jeans, like to punish him basically. And of course, my brother took that as a challenge. So he was like, okay, You want me to run it in skinny jeans? I'm going to run it in skinny jeans. And he like ran so hard. I think he like puked twice, once during the mile, another time after. But he was like, that was the kind of like, that was my brother, the guy I grew up with, right? So yeah, every time we were in the backyard and he was bored, he'd be like, yeah, let's go pass the ball around. And so I got pretty good at soccer, just trying to keep up with him. Eventually, when I was 16, I got invited to go train and potentially compete with the U.S. Paralympic soccer team. So I started training with them for a little over a year. And then basically when they were doing the classifications and starting to build out the roster for the next competitive season, they, sent me the competition list and they were like, all right, these are the dates like you need to block off on your schedule. And I looked at them and like 9 of them interfered with my like snowboard schedule, because I was doing both at the time. And I thought I could make it work, but then they were like, no, like you have to commit to the soccer team if you're going to train and like travel with us. And so I sat there for a while and looked and I was like, man, do I want to be a soccer player or a snowboarder? Soccer player? And honestly, like it took a second for me to be like, I don't know, man. Like the soccer team is actually kind of nice. Those are some really good boys to run around and train with. And I ended up finally deciding, I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. Like I have these snowboard comps I want to go to, and they're like, all right, see you later. Because there were 20 other kids that wanted that spot.
Sure.
But yeah, no, soccer has definitely been like the sport that I grew up with. And so, yeah, anytime I'm in the gym, it's kind of weird because like, yeah, I'm this little skinny snowboard dude who, you wouldn't guess. And then I just walk in, I'm like, oh, this is a soccer ball. And I just start juggling and people are like, whoa, like what sport do you do? And I'm like, no, I do snowboarding. But,
yeah. So I was going to ask, do you think that your body would take a rougher beating? And this may be an obvious question, in snowboarding or soccer, and did that like play an effect on your decision where you were like, soccer might be too easy on me. I need to get out there. I need to thrash a little bit. I can't thrash in soccer. Was that the mindset? Do you think soccer would have been a little bit easier on the body? What was your thought?
That's a good question, actually. I feel like both of them have their respective impacts, right? With soccer, I would say it's actually probably more high impact and more wear and tear on your knees and your ankles and hips, just because you're out there pushing for 45 minutes and then you get to take a second and then you go back out for another 45 minutes. And that's massively sustained compared to what we do on snowboards nowadays. Our courses are like max 2 minutes 30 seconds of like high energy output for sure, and high impact because we're out there jumping. But I think it was a good idea that I didn't go the soccer route, just because since then I've very much realized I'm not an endurance athlete by any means. I would much rather like strap in and go for like 10 runs and then call it a day than I would to like get all set up, go out in like the hot Georgia heat, where they were training, and just like run around for 4 hours, right? Just sweating my nuts off. So definitely the right choice there for the body. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, snowboarding's way more fun. I like getting out there and passing on a soccer ball with some friends, having a good time. But like, I don't miss a lot of the training drills we used to do out on the field,
Well, so going back to like your brother being a superstar and all this stuff, like when we were in Chile, we were talking, we were hanging out. Zach brought his Steam Deck. So he had, was it Need for Speed or something like that, downloaded to it, and he'd just gotten it. And so we're all taking turns playing. Not me so much, because I'm not much of a gamer, but Zach's a big gamer. And then Mike Miner started like heckling him, was like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this car. I'm going to play all night and then build up some money. And then I'm going to buy this car with your money. And Zach's like, don't mess with my game. Like, it's like, it's a known thing. You don't mess with Zach's games. Like, it's just crossing the line. So
I'll set them up for you, but you can't just walk in and start taking over my save files. Those are sacred.
That's Mike Miner.
Oh, it's 100% Mike Miner. He's so like, Mike. Oh, there's a scratch or an itch. I'm going to scratch that hard, right? It's fully Miner. So like what I was going to say though, is like, I had a conversation with Zach, because I was like, dude, you're getting like pretty aggro over this. What is it all about? And then he told me this story about his brother came in and like full on game, bought a bunch of stuff, all of this. And it came down to a soccer shootout. So like, Zach, fill us in, because I can't remember the whole story and I'd butcher it if I tried, but like, Bro, tell us about that because it's hilarious.
Dude, it's one of like my core childhood memories, right? That's like, it was definitely a, what do they call a canon event, right? You know, in my upbringing, it turned me into the person I am, right? So I've always liked the racing games, lived and breathed racing my whole life. And so, growing up, one of my favorite games to play on our Xbox that we had in our house was Need for Speed. And so at the time it was like Need for Speed Carbon. And I was obsessed during that time with the 4GT. Like I thought it was just like the best car ever made. I loved the style. I loved the sound. I loved the taillights. Like that was my car. And when I earned it in the game, right, it meant everything to me. I was like, it wasn't even one of the best cars in the game, but I was like, I'm going to beat the game with that car because I love that car. Right. And so, my brother caught on. He saw how much I cared about the car. He didn't really understand it. But yeah, one day, he was messing around on my game. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And we get into this big argument. And he knew what he was doing because I was, his younger brother. And like, he knew he could do this to me. But he's like, well, tell you what, I'll let you do whatever you want to my favorite car in my game. And I was like, okay. He goes, the only thing you got to do is stop 3 shots out in the net, out on the field. And I was like, what? And he's like, this is the deal I'm offering. We're going to go out to the park. You're going to go into the net, grab your gloves, and I'm going to take 3 shots on you. If you block all 3 of them, you can do whatever you want to my save file. You can wreck my car. You can sell it. You can paint it to make it look horrible, whatever you want. If I score 1 goal on you, I get to do whatever I want to your 4GT. And I was like, no way, man. Why would I do that? And he goes, cause dude, I'm going to take every shot from outside the box, like outside that massive, 20-foot box. Right. And I'm like, oh, well, I can handle that. Like I had already been playing for our middle school team for 2 years now. And I was like, all right, I could do this. I could totally do this. Right. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I go get my gloves. We head out to the park and he's like, all right. And dude, I'm telling you, he knew every step of what he was doing. Right. We lived nearby this park, this field. And one of the things that just the local HOA had some money for was to put up, 2 nets so that some kids could play soccer. The field was never painted. It was never maintained. They just put up those 2 nets and they were like, good enough. And my brother and I were probably the only kids in that neighborhood that even used them, right? Oh, wow. We went out there and he takes the first shot on me. And he plays it nice and easy. And he puts a little bit of spin on it. It's coming from the outside in. It looks flashy, but it's not a lethal shot by any means. And I save it. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, what? You want some extra time to warm up? Like, you trying to, is it okay? You want to wait until the wind's more at your back, right? And he's just letting me get all amped up. He's like, no. Just let me take one more. And so moves the ball over a little bit. This one's a little bit more direct. And this time, again, knows exactly what he's doing. He's a good soccer player, right? He rockets a shot at me that scares me a little bit, but he puts it right at me, like something I'm going to stop. So he rockets a shot at me and I block it off my hands and I'm like, whew, okay. Were you getting a little upset about what I said there? Now I'm getting real amped, right? Because I don't really get this many opportunities as the younger brother to trip at my older brother, and kind of get under his skin, right? And so now I'm running away with it. I'm getting way too overconfident. And he's just sitting there and he's like, yeah, you're right. That was a pretty bad shot. All right, one more. This is it. Comes down to this. He starts adding some pressure. He's like, if this one goes in, I get to do whatever I want to your save file. And I was like, dude, I already know what color I'm going to paint your car. I'm going to paint it like that. I'm going to finish last in a race and I'm going to sell it. And he's like, yeah, okay. Just, all right. And so he backs up and he's like, tell you what, man, we don't actually have to do this. We can just go home now. We can call. And I was like, that's when he got me, right? He baited me and he's like, dude, we don't have to do it. And I was like, no, take the shot. I'm ready. I'm going to take this. I'm going to block this. It's game over, right? Literally game over. Take the shot. And he's like, okay. And again, like I said earlier, this field was not maintained, right? And my brother knew if he put a hot shot right across the ground, just kept it nice and low, it was going to hit this bump that was just outside the smaller box. And I wasn't going to be ready for it, right? I was focused on him. I was laser focused and I had the blinders on, right? And so he's like, all right, here we go. He takes a couple steps back and he goes, you sure? Take the shot. And sure enough, he walks in and he just wham, just full open face of his boot, rockets this thing at me like 50, 60 miles an hour, just chopping grass on its way to me, right? I mean, this thing is literally mowing the lawn as it's coming in. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. And just to be sure, right, I'm already coming down to put my whole body. And then it just hits the bump. And I just watch as it just goes up and over my shoulder, just right past me in slow motion, just like, there it goes. Your whole, all your dignity, all your confidence, everything leading up to it, just right over me, just hits the back of the net.
Oh no.
And I'm just sitting there punching the ground. And my brother, he didn't even wait a second, dude. He was full sprint back to the house to start up the Xbox 360. Gets in there. And by the time I had gotten home, he had taken my perfect 4 GT, this thing I had painted black and gold, this thing that was like my child. It's hot pink with a metallic coat, extra glossy. It's got hearts and flowers and lipstick kisses all over it. And he's like, you got to finish your save with that car now. And I had to, I don't think I finished that game. I was like, you know what? I don't even like Need for Speed anymore. It's fine, whatever. And like ever since then, dude, like like I said, one of those canon events that made me so competitive, especially about video games.
So I love it, man. How much older is your brother than you?
He's 3 years older than me.
3 years older, perfect age, man. Perfect difference, man.
Yeah.
You're right. That'll harden you, I'm sure. Having a girl and a boy, it's a little bit different, but I had 2 brothers growing up, man. I had one year older than me and one 3 years younger than me. And I actually quit playing video games when my younger brother started beating me. Like I was like, well, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? Like I should be beating my brother who's 3 years younger than me at this. And he started beating me. I want to say he was probably like 11 or 12 and I was 14 or 15. I was like, nope, I'm done. I don't play anything anymore. So thanks, Scott. When you see this, I don't play video games anymore because of you. And look what I'm missing out on. I'm missing out on all this goodness, apparently.
Zach's brother is full on hustler, bro. I fully hustled him.
He still is like in my head to this day, man. Like when Super Smash Brothers Ultimate came out, we both had a Nintendo Switch. He was like, dude, like start training your main and come down and play me in. And this is like 2 years ago, dude. I'm like 22, headed down there, play with my brother. And like, I left that day just like wanting to punch the wall, man. Like I could lose to anyone, right? In video games. And I'll be like, yeah, like you beat me. I was having a bad night, whatever. But like just something about losing to one of your siblings, it's just, it stays with you. It burns inside.
So I grew up as the older brother. So, and video games, it was like Sega when I was hanging out with my little brother. So it was primarily like Sonic and things like that. What else was there? We were talking about it last night. Oh, Mortal Kombat. And like my little brother didn't have a chance. We were like 5 years difference, right? So like, he didn't have a chance. But now he's like Zach, he's like a ripping gamer and stuff. And I would not have a chance if I tried. Like if I put a month aside to learn a game or something, I still wouldn't have a chance against him.
But you're that type of but you're that type of person, Keith, that like if you did pick it up, I think I'm that type of person too. If somebody like challenged me, it would probably ruin my life. I'd probably play way too much. I'd probably like go all in and wouldn't have time for anything else. Kind of like what I'm doing now with everything going on with Shredding Sassy, man. I'm just all in. I love it too much. But dude, we're here on Thrash Talk, man. I love it. We're here.
Dude, Thrash Talk, bro. Like we got Zach Miller in the house. Zach, so stoked to have you. Like I know it's been a long time coming. Sleep and I, we've had how many conversations about getting you on to like an X Space, and now that we've got Thrash Talk up and running, I'm so stoked that we finally were able to get some time, get some of your time, and be able to put it all together where we could actually link up and get you on the podcast and just shoot the shit with you, man.
We just kicked this thing off. Keith and I met probably 8 or 9 months ago, maybe not even that long. I don't even know. Just we met through Ollie, and we had a good time, man. We're all over Twitter, and we finally decided to take this step over to podcasts, and just really lucky that we have this connection, man, and having you here today, and like really want to learn more about your life, your upbringing. Coming from Colorado, right? You're from Colorado, boy.
Yeah.
And really coming up in the sport, man. You're I'm going to say it. You're much younger than Keith. Sorry, Keith. You're much younger than Keith.
He reminds me every day, bro.
Perfect,
Every day he reminds me.
Do you call him? So I'm telling you, I've been giving Keith the business about this, but do you call him Grandpa Grizz like Miner does? Because that's like kind of my favorite nickname for him. Now, you don't call him Grandpa Grizz. What do you call him?
Oh, man, I ain't that stupid. I call him Sir.
I think it's just because this is recorded. You're saying that. I'm just taking it because this is recorded.
I'll definitely throw out
he's got to face me at some point.
Yeah.
Boomer jokes constantly. Yeah. And Miner's not that much younger than me, so where he gets off saying Grandpa Grizz, he's fully bald. It's no offense, sleep, but I have a full head of hair. It may be turning gray, but it's a full head of hair at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man, but so I mean, it's awesome that you guys are still competing, and obviously Keith is competing in the same class as you. How long have you been at the pro level? How long have you guys been, I guess, teammates and, competitors in a sense, at the same time? How long have you been up at the show per se?
Yeah, so I've only been like Keith's teammate, we'll say, the official teammate, for 5 years now, because I made the team just after South Korea. But I mean, we definitely go way farther back than that. And honestly, like as teammates in a sense too, I discovered snowboarding when I was 8 years old, and it was through the ARCH program that Children's Hospital has, that they have down in Denver, because I was going there regularly for treatment, and my doctors noticed, I had that real competitive spirit. So they recommended the ARCH program to my mom to kind of get me involved in just like a spread of different sports. They'll take the kids out and host like a clinic for, a couple days and teach kids how to, pass a soccer ball, throw a football, or even go fishing. And the thing that I clicked with was when they took us up to Winter Park and taught us skiing. And so the first time I did that, I was 6 years old, and I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed being out on the mountains, right? I went up there. I had such a good time. I was surrounded by a bunch of other kids that were in kind of the same situation as me. Like they were regular patients at the hospital, and so they also kind of like didn't fit in. And so we were just this crew of misfits out there learning how to ski. And so I fell in love with the mountains through that. When I got back home the first night, my mom goes to pick me up, and she like gets me into the back seat, and she gets in the car, she starts it up, she adjusts the mirror, and she's like, "Hey, how'd it go?" And I'd like already passed out. Like I was just gone in the back seat, right? I completely burned all my energy. And when I finally woke back up later that night, I couldn't shut up about how I was like ready to go out there again. And so I did that for 2 years and got on a chairlift at Winter Park. The aero lift is still up there, just this little 2-person chair. And as we were headed up, I was with my instructor and just saw a pack of snowboarders headed down the mountain, and like they were having so much fun. Like they were carving, they were slashing, they were throwing snow at each other, they're chasing after each other. They were just laughing and having a good time, right? And I turned to my instructor and I was like, I have to try that. And she was like, all right, well, like you're a pretty small kid. We'll see if you even fit any snowboards we got. And at the time I actually didn't. I was too small, so I had to wait until next season when I was 9 to actually strap in for the first time. And I just started doing it recreationally because I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I really don't know how to balance, but like the first time I linked like a heel to a toe edge, right, was just like, whoa, this is so much fun. So then I was just obsessed with it, right? Still doing it recreationally through the ARCH program. And then that's when I heard about this snowboard team that had been started up there in Winter Park at like the NSCD headquarters. And there was a couple of dudes on this team that were training for racing. And I was like, wait, you can race? And they were like, yeah. I was like, you can go fast on a snowboard? And they were like, yes. Is that something you might be interested in? And I was like, yes, right? I've been a speed like freak my whole life. I was bitten by the speed bug early on. And so then I've heard about this sport called border cross where you could like race, right? And so then I found out about it. I signed up for just a local USASA race, and I raced against this dude named Carlos Figueroa, who was an ex-Marine, and he was a dude that was just training as well. And I'd kind of started snowboarding recently, and it was just me and him. And we pull out of the gate, and he's beating me by a few board lengths, no problem, because I'm so young at this time. I think I was 11 when I signed up for this first race. And he fell in like turn 3. And me being like the innocent little kid I was, I stopped and asked if he was okay. And he's like, dude, go, like it's a race. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll see you at the bottom. And, got my momentum back up and finished. And as I come across the finish line, there's like just a bunch of moms there that, watching their kids, but like they're cheering and like ringing kettlebells. And I was like, I just won my first border cross race. I'm going to live forever. Like, this is awesome. And so then they're like, all right, well, if you really like this, if this is something you want to do, let's introduce you to this development team that we got here. And so that's when I met like Edge and then a few other guys. And then that's when I also met Mike Shea, who he brought me kind of into the more elite circle of the guys at the time, which included Keith. And so at that time, Keith, Evan, and Mike, who were the 3 guys who, eventually went on to sweep the podium in Sochi, they were all training together, just pushing each other to get ready for Russia. And I got to like basically spend my first few years of training chasing after these guys. So like, even though, I've only been Keith's official teammate for like 5 years, he's one of the first like role models / coaches / competitors that I even had in the sport. So it's really cool to now be sitting here today, right? And like having gone to the Paralympics with him, competed on the world stage with him, become not just a competitor, like not just this little kid that's chasing him, but now like a teammate and friend is pretty cool when you look back on it.
And hitting him with the eyebrow too. Hitting him with the eyebrow challenge.
Yeah.
No, hey, so let's
egging him on and almost killing him.
We don't have to go into that yet. We don't have to go into that yet. Yeah. So that was Sochi was in 2014, right? Because Pyeongchang was in 2018. So man, you were 11. How old were you? 10, 11?
I was 13 turning 14 at the time. So I was actually still too young.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you're 27 now? 27? My math is 24. Dude, my math is terrible. So 10 years from today. You're 14. Yeah, no worries. Holy cow. Nah, that's crazy, man. Watching border cross and, Keith, I told you more recently, again, watched your X Games gold finish and just coming down that end, into the crowd with everybody cheering, it's got to be the greatest feeling in the world. Border cross finish down to the wire. You know what I mean? Is there any better feeling, Zach, than that?
Not that I know of. If there is, I'd love to know what it is because, you grow up and you watch like action movies where like this movie star is like, jumping out of the plane while it's exploding in the background. He's saving the girl at the same time. And you're like, oh man, like you kind of fantasize about moments like that, growing up when like you're it, right? You're the main character. And I feel like coming across the finish line in first while a bunch of people are just like losing their minds is pretty much the closest thing in reality that we have to like those main character moments. It's why we all train for it, is because like that's when you really feel like on top of the world, right? Like you're the best. You just proved it by winning this race. All these people are here. They're screaming out. They're yelling. Some are chanting your names. People are getting ready to tackle you, right? It's one of those feelings that you're just so wrapped up in when it happens. And like, you can ride that high for months, dude. I'm already thinking of some of the moments that I've gotten to do that, just a handful for me so far, but still like those moments are, those moments when it all comes together is like definitely the best feeling I think life can offer.
Can't even imagine, man.
Yeah, man.
Can't even imagine.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's only a handful of things out there that even compare, and honestly, like half of like, say my career, for example, like not to bring it about myself, but like watching someone like Zach start at such a young age, knowing him as like little babyface Zach. I mean, he's still babyface Zach
for sure.
But seeing him kind of come into his own and see him really, really put in the effort and the work to make the team, and then, do what he has to hustle and grind to pay bills while, he's just trying to chase a dream is so impressive to me. And to get that chance to watch him actually succeed in the sport. It's so cool, man. And then being someone who's also been able to have those moments, like, I mean, I know exactly what he's going through in that very moment. Just like, dude, what just happened? Oh my God. Like, did this really just happen? Teammates are tackling you, people are cheering. It's so rad, and he's definitely a ripper, man. He's definitely one of my biggest competitors, and super stoked that he's on the team and has found his own within this world. And I'm glad he didn't go to soccer, bro. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So with your yearly why can't I think of the world the championship series? I mean, when you guys are over in Europe, what is it called? I'm sorry, Keith.
World Cup circuit.
World Cup circuit. Okay. Is the World Cup circuit more to you? Is the Olympics, the Paralympics more to you? Are you looking more forward to Italy in a few years, or is it just the World Cup circuit this year? This is number one on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, right now, like the season that we're going into is kind of considered like the off year, because our quad, right, every 4 years there's the games. The first year is World Championships. The second year is just World Cups and World Cup finals. There's no titles. There's there's no like big TV events. It's just racing. And then year 3 is World Championships again, because World Championships is every 2 years. And then after that, you have year 4, which is the Olympic and Paralympic year. And so we're going into year 2, which is kind of like I said, kind of that lull, that off year. But for people who, have been in the sport and have seen the numbers and have kind of had the experience, year 2 is like almost the sleeper year, right? Where if anything, the people who are really in it to win it are testing everything, right? Because we have 3 years until the games, which sounds like a long time, but it's actually not. So you really don't have like too much time to rest and take it easy and like have that off year if you want it. Obviously, like some people have obligations, they got families, they got big life events, and that usually is like a good time for them to take off because there's not much at stake. But like for athletes like me, like it's the time to really start laying in the groundwork for the next 3 years. Because if you can start the habits now, if you can figure out what boards are best for you and what techniques are the most successful for you, and what you can consistently produce and get better at over the next 3 years, then 3 years down the road, when you've been practicing for that long, it falls into place a little bit easier, and you increase your chances that much more. And so for me, like this year is just all about like starting a new foundation that's really going to set me up for success. And one of the big things that I'm doing to kind of ensure that is picking up everything I own and moving out here to Utah. We recently had a big change for our team. Up until this last year, the U.S. para snowboard team has been under the USOPC as the national governing body. And over the course of the summer, we were signed over to U.S. Ski and Snowboard Association. And so there's been a lot of new things to get used to. There's been a lot of different emails introducing different people, and it's kind of been a bit of a whirlwind. But one of the things that's definitely become clear, especially this week, because Keith and I are both here in Utah training here, is that we have access to some pretty unique resources that are specific to us, right? When we were with the USOPC, that was a much bigger organization, and it had, more resources, but it also had a much bigger umbrella of all of the different sports that it governs and all of the different teams within those sports that it takes care of and has to budget for and has to provide gear for and everything. And so kind of, the joke I say is para snowboard, we were like the redheaded stepchild of the family. We were like the ones that they would take care of really just because they had to. And they really didn't focus a whole lot on really like developing our team and getting us access to the things that we really need. We just had, the access to all of their facilities, and every once in a while they'd throw us a bone with, like a speaking engagement or connecting us with someone. But now that we're under US Ski and Snowboard, we have this organization that's a little bit smaller, but is so much more in line with what we do and why we do it, and the resources and the training tools that we need to to be the best that we can that we can be at snowboarding. So we've come out here to train at one of the awesome facilities they have here in Utah, the Center of Excellence. And it's like, I mean, it's like the snowboarder's like perfect playground, right? You know, you got all your weights, you got plenty of stuff to bulk up. You also got like, you know, a literal gate to pull out of to practice your starts in and see the data on how you're pulling, and so that you can start messing with different techniques to pull out of the gate to ensure that, you know, whatever course we show up to, we'll be first out of the gate and first to turn one. You know, we'll earn that whole shot and massively increase our chances of winning and taking home more medals. And so, I mean, that's kind of the perfect line up with what I was just talking about of like, this is also the time in the quad that like you need to be messing with this stuff as an athlete to start building all that 100%. Stuff for success. So for me, you know, I've been living in Colorado my whole life. I was born in Denver. I was raised up there. And for the last 8 years, I've been living up in Summit County and training at Copper, you know, riding with Keith, riding with all these other guys. And now we have these new resources, and a lot of them are here based in Utah. And so I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, I don't have any pets I need to worry about. So I'm just picking up everything and moving out here so I can focus 100% for the next 3 years on being the athlete that I want to be. And it's something that I'm super proud of because it's kind of been the dream that I've always like wanted to have. It's the lifestyle that I've always wanted to have. I'm 24 and I'm young, and I've been in the sport for, you know, over a decade now, which is great. But one of the major, you know, compromises that I had to make was like, dude, I mean, anyone who knows anything about winter sports, skiing or snowboarding, knows that like it's not super accessible. Like, you know, there's that meme circulating on the internet where it's like, hey, dude, you want to come snowboarding? Like, the lift ticket's $350, rental's another $250. You're going to fall on your ass all day, be covered in bruises, and you're going to hate yourself, dude. You're going to get a sunburn somehow, even though it's overcast, and you're going to be cold the entire time. Your fingers are going to fall off. Hey, dude, why don't you come out? It's like going to be so much fun. Like, kind of poking fun at like how expensive our sport is versus like the trade-off of like enjoyment you might get from it, right? So it's not like the most accessible sport. And that's one of the things that's especially tough for like me, a kid living on my own, having to worry about bringing in my own income so that I can buy that next ski pass, so I can show up to that next race with a board and wax that's competitive. And so for me, like my entire snowboard career, I've been like living at home with my parents over the summer to save money on rent. I've been working in food service since I was 16, either brewing coffee or making bagels, or recently bartending or making sandwiches for people. Like pouring beers is what got me enough money to travel the world and represent my country. And so like, yeah, if I needed to like pour 100 beers in a day and get 50-cent tips, you know, then if that was what it was going to take to like get back out on snow and get another chance at, you know, standing on the podium, then I was going to take it. And so it meant pinching pennies. It meant saving up. It meant, you know, being very conservative about myself, my future, my time, and my money to make sure that I could still be a snowboarder at the end of the day. And so now with these next 3 years coming up, like I'm 24. When I get to Italy, I'll be, you know, 27. And like, that's a pretty good year, like physically, to be really competitive. Right. And so I want to maximize it as best as I can. And so I've been saving money just for the last 10 years, dude, just stockpiling nest egg and trying to strike up, you know, deals with sponsors. This year I got a huge new sponsor signing with me that, you know, they heard my story and they saw the drive that I wanted, and they saw the goal that I had for myself. And, you know, they offered to shake hands and help make that happen. So now I got, you know, Think Analytics on board, and they're awesome. Like it was literally just this like telecommunications event that we were at. And it was this company that just sells software, but they heard what I was about and what I wanted. And then they were ready to jump in. So like, because of support like that, because of support that I've gotten from my family, and then the support that I've gotten just from the team and my teammates, you know, the guys that I'm in the gate with that have been helping give me advice, you know, on like, hey, like, here's what to prioritize at your age. Here are the things that like you should focus on because, you know, they see it too. Right. And even though like we're competitors, when the gate drops, as soon as we cross the finish line, like that's gone. That's over. And now we're teammates and we're friends and we're these people who travel the world together and experience, the highest highs and the lowest lows that life can give you. So like when you have bonds like that and people like that in your corner, it can set you up for some pretty amazing stuff. And for me, that means moving out here and finally getting to be like a professional athlete. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds. And I'm proud of the spot I've gotten myself into.
Hell yeah, super stoked, man. When you told me you were making the move to Utah, I was like, bro, it is about time. It is, I can't tell you how many, I can't tell you countless nights I've had with Zach, rooming together or whatever, and we're just having conversations. He's like, dude, I just don't know what to do right at this very moment, and like whatever it might be, financial or whatever the case may be. And at the end of the day, I'm not someone to give financial advice, but I can tell you to save your money, and I can kind of help you prioritize things and stuff like that. And we really have had those long conversations just about life that I think finally all of the pieces are finally coming together for him. And I mean, even today we were having this conversation about like how cool it is that we get to use this facility and we're actually seeing real data. And I go, bro, I've been waiting 13 years for this moment, And like, just to back up for anybody listening to Thrash Talk that doesn't know what the USOPC means, that's the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And like Zach said, the facilities are great, but they're also kind of a general facility for multiple sports, whereas the facilities we have access to now are specifically for only ski and snowboard, no other sports. So to be able to finally get to see this data is so paramount. Like, it is so paramount. I'm so excited to see what comes out of this for our team, for Zach, for myself. And I'm super stoked for Zach that he's finally making these big boy moves and like he's going out on his own, man. He's making the move that he knows is best for him. No one else. He's not to say he's not thinking about other people, but he's my boy. Like he's out there doing what's best for him at this very moment. And I'm so pumped for him, like it takes a lot to like uproot yourself for a career. And I did the same thing back in, 2013. I uprooted from Utah to Colorado. So exact opposite, but the same exact thing, a handful of snowboards and like 4 boxes to my name. Didn't even have a car, hitched a ride to Colorado to chase the dream. So I totally can relate and understand where he's at in this very moment, and like you said, second year in a quad.
Sure.
It's a perfect time. The only thing we have on the line this year is a globe. And the way it works, either that's a big moment it's always a big moment to win a globe, but some teams put more emphasis on that than say our team does. It's not necessarily like a criteria to make the US team. They look at your overall standings within world rankings and that sort of stuff, and if it's a world championships year, they look at your performances there, which Zach freaking crushed it last season. Absolutely cleaned house at World Champs, which is not easy. It's terrible venue, rough, it's 80, 70 degrees, snow. We had a river running down the next to the course. I mean, dangerous. People were going out on stretchers. And
where was it at?
It was in La Molina, Spain.
Okay.
Which is a place that I will publicly say I begged and pleaded to not have world championships there. I did everything in my power to stop that, and it still happened, knowing that it's not a good venue. They don't have the infrastructure. Honestly, the food is rough. The volunteers are amazing. They do whatever they can with the limited resources they have to put on a show and put on a course. But at the end of the day, they don't have the snow. It's too hot. It's low altitude. It's just rough, man. It's a rough spot, but Zach was able to keep it together in a couple comps and really come home with some very important medals.
Zach, man. So I want to go back to Park City real quick, but actually, no, let's go back to Park City in a second. Bringing home those medals at World Champs. I mean, that's what won you the ESPY, right? So ESPY for 2023 best para athlete. Man,
yeah, it's what got me nominated. It's what got me the adaptive athlete of the year award with US Ski and Snowboard. And so I got to, come out here because they did it here in Park City and get up on stage and give a small speech to accept the award. But then that was what got me my nomination for the ESPY, and then was able to get enough votes. And so it was kind of this, World Champs is where it started. It was just this domino effect of a great achievement that led to some other great things that, ultimately ended in that ESPY. And so it's not anything I expected to do over the summer, but something I'm very grateful for.
Check this out. You got to tell me. Okay, so who did you sit next to at the ESPYs? Who did you sit next to? Were you next to anybody that you were like, oh shit, man, look over there. That's this person. Who were you next to?
I was sat next to my mom. Yeah.
Okay.
I called it.
I was, man. She was my +1 for the event. It meant a lot for me to be there because, she's like the OG sponsor, right? She's the supporter that was there from before day one, and so, when we found out we were getting invited out there, I didn't know if I had won yet, just that I was one of the nominees and that they, had a seat for me at the ESPYs. And so I was like, all right, Mom, you got to find a nice dress because you're joining me. And so, we got to walk the red carpet together and be there at the show. And so she's, in that entire room, she's the person I'd want to sit next to most anyways. So it's a special event for sure.
That's amazing, dude. All right. But other than your mom, if you could have sat next to somebody at the ESPYs, if you could have chose who you sat next to, who would it have been? Like, is it LeBron James? Is it Serena Williams, Michael Phelps? Who would you have picked if you could pick to sit next to somebody at the ESPYs? Who would it have been? And then why? Tell me why too.
Picked. Yeah, that's a really good question. Oh man, if I had to pick someone, well, it's tough, right? Because I looked at the nominee list, some of the people that I was going to be there at the event with, and there were two names that stood out to me, right? The first one, going back to the soccer roots, Lionel Messi was up for best male athlete and best soccer player. And so I was like, if he's there and I see him and I'm in the same room, I was just going to freak out, right? And then the other athlete that was high up on that list that I was stoked to just see my name next to, he's this younger kid. May not have heard of him. He drives for this weird energy drink company, red something. Oh yeah. He's the number one driver for Red Bull F1 team. His name is Max Verstappen, and currently over the last 2 years, he's been mopping the floor with everyone else on the grid. I actually have a Red Bull Racing hat on my head right now. Because I've been a huge fan of F1 and watching that dude just literally operate on a whole nother level with the world's best. I was like, is Max Verstappen going to be at the ESPYs? So if I could have chose someone to sit next to, I absolutely would have sat there and been like, yo, so tell me about the car, right? Unfortunately, neither of those guys ended up showing up. Max had a race later that week, and Messi was obviously busy winning everything in the MLS.
Doing the Messi stuff.
Yeah, but those were the two guys that I was most eager to see.
No, I love it, man. Great answer. And then, again, pulling back to the Park City, what are you most excited about moving to Park City other than the snowboarding? You talked about the Center of Excellence. You talked about everything that it's going to do for your career there. But on a personal level, is there any thing personal bringing you to Park City? Are you excited about the team that's already present there? Maybe about the food? I don't know. Is there anything else that's kind of pulling you that way?
Yeah, for sure. So where I'm moving to is actually still kind of within Salt Lake City. It's just right next to the mouth of the canyon. So my commute to the COE in Park City is going to be 15, 20 minutes. So definitely still right there, which is nice. But I would say one of the bigger reasons why I'm also being drawn here is I have a hobby that is far too expensive. If anyone else has it as well, they will totally understand. I am huge into motorcycles. I love them. I've always wanted to have one growing up. And there was a brief 2 years when my dad got himself, my brother, and me dirt bikes. And at the time I was still so young. I was again, like 13, 14 at the time, that I just had like a 50cc 4-stroke Honda with 3 gears, an automatic clutch. It was a glorified like pit bike, right? It was a little scooter. And that was kind of my only experience that I got on like 2 wheels. But I loved it. I just wanted to know what it was like to be out on the road and like focusing more on the technique rather than the muscle. Like when you're riding a dirt bike, you're just like pushing that thing through courses and through the trees. But when you're on you're on a motorcycle, like a street bike, like especially one of those like crotch rockets, right? Like it's so much power at your hands, but you have to be conscious. You have to be committed to it. You have to be careful and intentful with the way that you use it. And when you are able to use it well, you can do some amazing things, right? If anyone's ever seen like a clip of MotoGP athletes chasing each other across the track, like they're dragging their knees in every turn, but sometimes now these guys are so crazy. They're like getting so far off the bike down to the ground that they're dragging their shoulder through these turns, like literally coming back with wear on their shoulder pads because they're just like ripping it through turns at like 120 miles an hour. Right. And so I always just really looked up to those guys of like that's maturity. That's mastery, to be able to have the athletic prowess to control a machine, right, with that much power. And of course, me, like growing up with CP, like I didn't have a lot of power at my disposal in my body, like especially for dirt biking. Like that literally kicked my ass. Like I was really struggling, coming home from like just a day of trail riding, trying to keep up with my brother. And I was like, I feel like on a motorcycle, like the odds would kind of almost be even a little bit because it's all about your throttle control. It's all about your technique. And so 3 years ago, I got my first motorcycle, and Keith actually helped me get it. He was there to help support me when I reached out to him. I was like, yo, is this a good bike? And he was like, that's a good bike. And he gave me his blessing to go and pick this thing up. And so, yeah, I started riding that
for it.
Yeah. I came up
your
to him.
Parents okay with this? He's like, my mom's not, but I was like, all right, I'll give you the loan.
Yeah, I hit him up. I was like, dude, I found this thing. It's on Craigslist. It's amazing. It's the bike that I want, but like it's gonna go fast because it's for a really good deal. I like literally just need like $500 more. And he was like, Zach. And I was like, I know, but like I've done the research. Like, let me tell you about it. And I like gave him this whole pitch, and he was like, all right, like you already got your gear squared away, everything. Like, I want to see you like do what you love. So he like granted me the money, and I was like, sweet, I'll pay you back Friday. Went and picked up the bike, paid him back Friday, and then started riding on 2 wheels. And since then, I've just like learned even more about bikes, fallen more in love with them. I've actually picked up a second motorcycle, which is an old SV650 that's literally was born the same year I was. And to take it out to the track and start to learn how to race on 2 wheels. Because again, like everything comes back to racing and how I'm obsessed with it. But out here in Utah, you have a few more days out of the year to ride around on 2 wheels. There's some amazing twisties because obviously you got some beautiful canyons that are nearby in the backyard, and they have Utah Motorsports Campus here too. So I'll be able to get back on track and start dragging some knees there. And there's just a huge bike scene here, right? Tons of people are into it. They allow filtering here, so you can actually like get up to the front at stoplights and get open road for the next stretch. So, I mean, all that's super nice. And especially like in Colorado, Keith can vouch for this. The drivers there are questionable with those licenses. And so I've loved riding out there, but definitely coming here, that's going to be something I'm going to have a lot more time for, and we'll be able to take a bit more advantage of. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that Utah drivers are any better. You've seen for a while how rough it is here. But I know you're a ninja on that bike, so I've got all the faith in you. And to your credit, like going back to when you were making the purchase, like if anyone does their research, it's Zach. There's times where I'm like, Zach, have you researched this piece of equipment? Like, can you talk to me about it? A lot of times it's like technology stuff, because again, I'm a boomer, and I don't necessarily do all of the research, or it's just so much I can't handle it. But I can shoot him a quick message, and he's like, oh yeah, dude, check this out, blah 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 blah. So when he had told me he was into bikes, I was like, are you sure? He's like, dude, I've done all the research. And I was like, okay, I trust that because I know you've already gotten your stuff. And then yeah, I was like, does your mom want you to have it? And he's like, absolutely not. And I was like, cool, I'll give you the money. Yeah. Like, who else are you going to turn to?
That's most good friends too. Yeah.
Dude, your Instagram's sick, man. Your Instagram's sick. I was going through a bunch of the videos earlier today and late last week, man. But yeah, I mean, it's there. That bike content's up, man. Maybe looking for a bike sponsorship soon.
Dude, I would love to. I've been told someone in the biker community was approached by Revit, the company that makes some extra accessories and really just like riding gear. And they were like, hey, do you know of any riders that are like a little more clean cut, not about like breaking all the rules and, posting disrespectful stuff up on the internet, but like actually, you can tell have a passion for the sport. And they were like, oh yeah, there's this one guy like the Mountain Miller, you should check him out. And so fingers crossed, right? Something might happen from that. That would be the dream if I had snowboard sponsors and then motorcycle sponsors. That would be pretty awesome.
It's content creation, man. You're putting out the content and people are sponsoring content creators now. And I mean, rightfully so. And as long as you're doing it right and you're getting the likes, the follows, the clicks, sponsor away. I think they should be.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if I had known that social media was going to be such a big part of like the pro athlete lifestyle, I maybe would have given it a second thought. Cause like, I've never really been about like creating content, entertaining other people. Like I fell in love with snowboarding because of how it made me feel, right? I loved the feeling that I got when I was out on snow, and kind of the anonymity too was nice. Like all growing up, right? I was this kid with a physical disability, and so like because of that, I wasn't picked first, during PE class and stuff like that. Made having friends a little bit more complicated. And snowboarding was like one of the first experiences that I had where like, out there you're covered from head to toe in gear. People can't tell who you are. They can't see your face. They don't know your backstory. All they see is how you ride, and you're judged on that. Like when you're just carving down and like dragging your arm across the snow and you're just having fun, you're popping 180s, like you got music going, you're vibing. People on the chairlift like notice that, right? And they'll like cheer you on because that's the whole reason we're all out there, right? And so like when I got to have that experience on a snowboard, like all of a sudden I was like, wait, like I get to be my own person out here. I have like this kind of safe space where like I'm no longer Zach Miller, the disabled kid. I'm just a kid out here in like bright yellow pants so his mom can see him, in a rental black jacket because it's all he can afford. That's just like making turns and having fun, and people were vibing with that. That's what drew me into the sport in the first place. That's why I fell in love with snowboarding. Was I loved the feeling and I loved that like security of it, that I could just be who I wanted to be and do what I loved. And now that I've gotten older and have started chasing after, podiums and got myself on the team, that's one of like kind of the harsh realities of it is like, you need support. And the best way to get that support is to have a platform, and you need to build that. Like you need to put effort into it. And it's a lesson I've been learning over the past few years, but that compliment means a lot because it means that, number one, the effort I've been putting into social media is something that I can be proud of, that people will take a look at and be like, oh, like that's what this kid is about. This is sick. Like obviously he takes pride in what he puts out there and what he does for a living. And so it's something I've definitely had to get used to, but now it's definitely something I embrace because now, ironically, almost, snowboarding has helped give me confidence in my identity, right? At first, I loved the fact that it hit it, and now I can be like, yeah, hi, how's it going? My name's Zach Miller. I'm 24 years old. I was born with cerebral palsy, and like, this is what I do. And now that's something I can be proud of and that I can share and that other people will hear about and just be stoked on. So like, it's this awesome reversal, right? Of like how it started versus how it's going, and kind of in the best way. So something I'm very proud of.
Love it, brother. Love it.
Yeah, he's definitely like our content guy. I'll be making a reel or something. I'll be like, Zach, what do you think? He's like, well, maybe like let's try this a little bit, and gives me helpful hints. And my social media platform sucks. I'm terrible at it, and to be honest, like I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm out there doing things, and I don't always pull out the camera or the phone. Trying to get better at it. But, Zach is definitely like our team tech guy who can definitely look at some social media stuff for you real quick and be like, well, maybe try it this way, or start it here with this video instead of that one or that picture or whatever. But you have any issues with any of your equipment as well, usually you can figure it out in a moment's notice.
Exhausting. It's exhausting, Zach. I don't know how you do it, man. I love it. It's exhausting. It's got to be. Me and Keith are old. We're like, I don't know.
He's got to take care of the boomers on the team. Man.
Yeah, right.
We kind of
just this summer that actually happened. Yeah, Evan called me and he's like, "Hey man, like I'm trying to mess with this new Samsung laptop I got, but like it's weird. It'll like start to turn on and then it won't work." And I'm like, "Okay, like when it happens, do you see Samsung show up?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." So then your computer's booting, and he's like, "Cool. I have no idea what that means." And I was like, "All right, unplug it, let the laptop die, plug it back in, and then when you see Samsung, just like mash the delete key." And like anyone who knows anything like about computers and like their BIOS and the software and how they work, like that's how you get into like basically the operating system, the BIOS of the computer. And so like I got him into that, and I'm like, "Okay, adjust this is how you're gonna boot it, and then from there on it should work." And like 5-minute phone call, and he was like, "Dude, you fixed it. You're amazing. All right, bye." And just like hung up. And I was like, "Yep, this is my role now." Like, I'm the chief tech guy. Yeah, to help me troubleshoot.
Pretty much. Zach, do you think like how much of a role has technology played in your life, especially growing up, like you said, not the kid that always got picked first on the team, growing up with cerebral palsy and all that kind of stuff? Like, were you someone who found that solace in like video games and learning about tech and being a part of like a world that kind of was that even playing field for you? Or was it just something that you just wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. At first, I grew up in a home that was kind of like much more traditional, like go out and play soccer, don't play video games, right? There's no future for you in that. And while I can totally understand like where that mentality and that logic came from back then, it's completely changed how I look at the world of technology and especially video games. Because as I got older, that like kind of love for video games never really went away. For me personally, what drew me to them was kind of the same aspect of snowboarding, that like you're behind a screen, you have your gamer tag, and you can choose what you want that to be. And the only thing that matters is like how many kills you're dropping in a Call of Duty lobby, or how fast you're going in a racing game, and if you're crossing the finish line first. Like it's objective, and it is that level playing field that I've always been really attracted to. And so growing up, like the passion was always there. And as I started to get older too, and like moved out on my own, right, I was like, I then had a little bit more time for video games. And so my brother helped me. We went to Micro Center one day and we built myself a custom PC. And so I started playing video games on that. And one of the big reasons why I still really enjoy video games and why I still play them is, for me, like you go out and you have your day, you're working out, or like for me, the last few summers, right, I'm like going and bartending, I'm standing on my feet for 9 hours a day. And I come back, I got work tomorrow, my shift starts early, I'm tired. So I don't like have the energy to like run outside and play a game of soccer, or even just like throw some weights around in my room. But I still need like some stimulation. Like I'm a competitive person by heart, right? So like I need something that can still give me that like that rush and that competitive, edge, but isn't something that I have to like go outside and do, that I have to expend more energy. Cause like I've had a full day, right? I just want to be able to like either relax and enjoy a story, or like jump in with one of my friends and just like play a game and have some fun, right? And so then I would boot up video games. And one of the biggest aspects I think that video games brings to the table that a lot of people underestimate is actually the social connection behind them. Like now all of a sudden you're connected to this, to the world. Basically, you can connect with someone on the other side of the world and play a match with them in your favorite video game, and just, using your comms or even just like a little chat box, you can start to learn things about them. And you find teammates that you play well with. And so you send them a friend request, you hop into a party with them, you're talking to them in your headset while you're playing video games. And before you know it, like you can have best friends that know everything about you, and you still like haven't even met them in person. And when I explain that concept to people, a lot of times they're like, yeah, like that's not a real friendship. And I'm like, no, like these people know more about me than like most other closer people in my life, like the people I work with, or the people I go to school with, or even the people that I snowboard with on a regular basis. Like these people have seen more from me and heard more about me just in like talking about our day while we're, playing a game together. And so then I started to see like a lot of the potential that video games had. And then I started to meet really cool people through video games. And then before you know it, I'm stuck in a house during COVID and there's nothing to do. You can't really go outside. So how are you still going to get that, that stimulation to still have consistent mental health, right? And video games were able to fill that niche for not just me, but like a lot of people. There's been this huge explosion recently with video games and communities within those games. And so one of the big things that came out of like that whole situation was, me and my development coach at the time were sitting in a house, and we're just waiting for COVID to pass. And we watched NASCAR decide to host a charity race. A couple drivers like built some little setups at home, got a wheel, and they even had their spotters join in on it. And they had like this whole virtual race, right? All the proceeds went to charity. It was entertaining for the drivers. It gave them something to do, but it was also entertaining for the audience because now like their favorite drivers were racing again, even though it was virtual, like it was something to watch. And then you got to see like this whole explosion with esports also like starting to take the main stage. Right? Like since COVID, I've like walked into bars and seen like Rocket League tournaments playing behind the bar. Yeah. And like, of course, like I wish I could go back in time and like show some of my teachers and be like, like, see, there actually was like a future, and it's fair. Like a lot of people underestimated the potential of them, but that's what draws a lot of people to video games is like, if you can just get good at mastering some inputs, if you can learn to read how the game flows and anticipate what's coming next, you can become great at something that otherwise like you never would have found. Right. And so then from there, me and my development coach at the time, Daniel Gale, we struck up a conversation with Logitech, and they brought in some other people from Able Gamers, this organization that makes like custom equipment for people with severe disabilities to be able to play video games. So like they build them custom joysticks or controllers that allow them to play video games. And like we got Mount Sinai in on it to actually create like a classification system and make a level playing field regardless of how your disability affected your abilities within the video game. And now there is an official adaptive esports league that gives people with disabilities an actual competitive world stage to show what they're capable of on. And like that to me is like one of the most beautiful things about something like that, right? Like there are dudes who are quadriplegic, they're paralyzed from the neck down, they have very little movement, and yet like someone like Quadnik, this dude who got famous in Rocket League because he uses like origami claws on the fingers that he can move and his face to play Rocket League, and he's better than like 98% of the player base. Like he will wipe the floor with you unless you're like a select group of people that are really good at the game, right? You got dudes who are posting clips on Twitch of like 180 no scopes across the freaking map, taking whole squads out, and they're using their chin to fire those shots. Like that is so cool when you can like come from whatever walk of life and have this equal opportunity to be great at something. And so like that was just one of the huge reasons why like I've still to this day like will stand by it. Like I am a nerd. I play tons of video games and I'm proud to do it. And I will talk for days on end about different video games and stuff because it is a genuine interest. It's a cool hobby. It's a career for people too now. And it's awesome for me to see that.
Heck yeah, man. I love how excited you are about it. This is so cool to see how excited you are. And probably one of your greatest accomplishments is, setting that up and being a part of building that, hands down, hats off to you. Keith, I cut you off there. What's up, man?
Oh, you didn't cut me off at all. I'm just super stoked that he actually talked about the adaptive esports thing. Yeah. Like I was really hoping that he would bring it up. And if he didn't, I was going to ask him about it because like you, I think it's freaking sick. Like so back in the day, Zach would be this full on gamer kid on the road with us. And I'm like, dude, do something with your life. He's like, I'm enjoying it. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I caught him watching video games like online, like other people playing. I was like, are you watching other people play? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I was like, okay, bro, explain it to me, because I don't get it. I understand it's like this whole new generational thing where kids like to watch other people play video games, and I just don't understand it. He's like, well, like you can learn stuff about it. Like these guys are really good, so they have all these like tips and tricks, blah blah blah. Plus, like, bro, you watch professional sports, don't you? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, it's kind of like that. Like I'm watching someone perform at the highest level, and like that was an aha moment for me. I was like, I'll never forget that conversation, because up until that point, I was like, God, we got some dummies coming up in the world, right? But once he explained that to me, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. It's like something they enjoy doing. It's like, I like to throw the football around or whatever. And then, you know, on Sunday, maybe I'll watch a game or two or something like that. Or I like to snowboard, and maybe you're just that average person out on the mountain, but then you watch X Games. You know, it's that same concept of like watching the best in the world do something that you enjoy doing. And then when we were in Chile, like we really got into it. He started showing me these Mortal Kombat 1 competitions, and we were both just like, come on, like I was freaking out. I actually got into it with him, and like I get it, you know. It took a while. I'm a boomer, as he'll say, but
that's so
you
cool.
know, it took a while, but I'm into it, you know. I'm stoked that he has it, you know.
For sure, man. That's amazing, Zach. So I need you to explain one thing that my kids are doing to me. Then maybe you're 12 years older than my daughter. Can you explain to me why she watches people unbox toys on YouTube? Why does she watch? Can you explain that to me? I was feeling the same thing as Keith about watching my kids also watch people play video games. But can you explain the unboxing thing? It's beyond me. Please tell me it's after your time as well.
Potentially, yeah. I don't know if I see the same appeal in unboxing. Like, it's cool that you're unwrapping this. But you know, there are actually some helpful videos out there on YouTube from people who are kind of the first to review something and are able to give you kind of that hands-on look, right? For me, I'll give you a current example, right? So like unboxing videos tend to be rather clickbaity. They just want to show off that they have this nice new expensive thing. But something that I'm keeping a close eye on is, again, back to like video games being one of my big hobbies. One of the ways that I've chosen to kind of invest in that for some good fun is I've built a driving simulator in my apartment. And so it's pretty cool. I got this whole wheel set up with like force feedback. So you actually, you know, you get information through the way the wheel handles to be able to drive a car. And they're coming out with some really cool stuff, right? This year, a company called Fanatec is releasing these new direct drive wheel systems that you got to bolt down to, you know, your rig. And they have these super strong, very, you know, like finely tuned motors in them that are capable of putting out some serious torque, like literally like the same torque as like a 50cc motor, right? That these things are able to spin with. And so they're coming out with these new things that are just like that much more realistic. Like we're starting to like almost blur the lines between like a sim race and like driving the real thing.
Sure. Right.
And so with technology coming out like that, one of the things that I like to do, like, you know, is my research, right? I like to look up everything about these, figure out, you know, what companies offer what products that have, you know, whatever features. And one of the best ways to do that is to watch someone actually take the product out of the packaging and review it, you know, and actually like be able to explain to you, like, this is the build quality. Like, here's some of the screws that were loose on mine, like out of the box. So there's some potential quality control issues here that you might need to be aware of. Give your stuff, you know, like whenever you decide to order this for yourself, make sure you give it a good look over. You might have to send it back. And then, you know, people will set it up and they'll just give you kind of their first impressions. And first impressions aren't always the best way to figure out whether or not you should buy something. But just being able to like actually see what that product will look like, how it will arrive, and a lot of times how to set it up as well. You know, tech is getting pretty complicated these days. And sometimes it's helpful to like watch a dude just like set something up and be like, these are the connections you need to be worried about. These are the things you need to be real like careful with. They're fragile. If you break this, you got to order the whole thing all over again. So there's definitely some value, right, to that. It's a way to be able to see something before you get your hands on it.
Okay.
And to make an educated decision.
So I didn't expect that complex of an answer. Like, and I want to go 100 different ways off of it, but I'm just going to go back to the simulator in your house, man. Like, have you seen the new Gran Turismo? Are you trying to be a driver? Like, what's happening here? I love it. The Gran Turismo movie was cool for me, but it's not my thing. So being an outsider, I'm like, oh, that's cool as hell. You know, what'd you think? Was it okay? Was it an acceptable movie or no?
Overall, I was a fan of the movie for sure, because it did a good job of starting to destigmatize the at first, they highlighted the relationship of like the main protagonist of the film and his relationship with his father. His father was like, get outside and like work in the train yard with me, like actually do something with your life. You're wasting all your time in your room, like driving in this video game that doesn't matter. And obviously, he goes on to get a seat driving for Nissan and competing in Le Mans 24 hours. Like it's a good story that does a good job of highlighting that, right? That like, yes, video games are very much a potential career for a lot of people, whether it's developing them, whether it's just playing them, or whether like the movie, they can lead to actual real life opportunities outside of the video game. And it definitely with some of these games, dude, let me tell you, like, they're getting pretty wild. Like I can watch a Formula One race and hear them talk about the technical specs of the car and the tires and their carcass temps and surface temps and degradation and wear. And I can understand what they're talking about because I played a racing game, right? So like there are things you can also learn through video games that will still help you in the real world, even when you're not, on your computer, when you're not playing. And so I was a fan of the movie in that regard. I will, however, say this. One of my biggest pet peeves in cinematic history is, you see this a lot in like the Fast and Furious movies, right? You're racing and, you're coming down to the final line and there's the finish line and the drivers are looking back and forth and, it like cuts back, right, to like a scene from his childhood or like when he almost died, right? And there's this whole dramatic scene that plays out. I still don't mind that. This is where it really gets me. We snap back to the current moment. Everything is on the line. He must win this race. And with the most determined look, he grips the wheel, pushes the clutch in, downshifts, slams the gas, and lets the clutch out. And the car, roars to life, and he's finally able to pull ahead. And I'm like, are you trying to tell me that you're in the wrong gear? Like, what?
The whole time?
Yeah. So you're telling me you were like just cruising in sixth when you could have like had a few more revs in fifth and like downshifting back to fifth got you the torque you need? You're a bad driver if you had to shift back a gear to win a race. Like, dude, I've always hated that about movies. And I was like, Gran Turismo is trying to like be an accurate depiction. So it's not going to do that. And 5 times, dude, this movie does that, man. Like literally it's like one of the climaxes of the movie, right? He's like racing in 24-hour Le Mans and he has this like kind of almost PTSD attack and he completely stops driving and like cars are just passing it.
Oh yeah.
And of course, spoiler alert, he's able to snap back into it, retake control of the situation. He's got this new sense of confidence and he drives it to the podium. And I'm like, okay, also following racing, knowing enough about cars. If you just like take your foot off the gas for a solid 5 minutes, like you can't just win after that, dude. Like that's disrespectful to the other drivers that are there, on the track. If like this dude can just have a whole, moment to himself where he's not even paying attention and then he can snap back and like beat you. Like these other drivers, they fought, to have that seat too. So, some pros and cons there. Try not to get too carried away, but
I love the feedback.
Sleep, you had to bring it up.
This is learning. This is a learning experience for me. It's perfect. It's great content, right? So we were talking about earlier. But yeah, no, it's perfect. Keith, man, there's a couple other things that really resonated when you were talking about gaming, and I kind of wanted to tie it back to Shredding Sassy, and that's the social club that I'm a part of, and that I really enjoy being a part of the community. And you talked about the gaming community and the connections that you've made in the gaming community with people that you've never met in real life. And in the Shredding Sassy Social Club, I feel I've made a lot of those same connections with people that share a love of action sports. And me, I'm an enthusiast, man. I like to skate. I like to snowboard. I like talking about it. I like talking to people that like to do it. I like learning about new places, new things. I talk in Twitter, X Spaces for 2 hours a day about stuff like this. And the people that I've met in the Shredding Sassy Social Club and in, I'm just going to call it crypto Twitter or Web3 Twitter, have been some of the best people I've met in my life. I've felt a sense that with some of them, not all of them, that I can be more vulnerable than I am with my neighbor down the street that I have beers with every day. I can be more vulnerable. I can open up more. I resonate more with them because we connect on this level of getting out there, really, pushing the limit, pushing ourselves to grow in one way or another, whether it's to become a better skater, a better snowboarder, or to just get out there and learn new things. So that really resonated with me. And I hope that, one day, I know that you're with us on Sassy and one day that you can jump in and kind of get that feeling as well, because man, it is so cool to get on the line with a guy from Cairo talking about windsurf. And man, I never windsurfed in my life, but just to hear how excited he is as like a beginner to intermediate level windsurfer and just talking about his day and getting out there, man, I am stoked to hear about that because man, I want to learn too. I want to know more. So I feel there's so many similarities there.
It's like a connection with, just other passionate people. And the connection is, extreme sports in one way or the other, and just to add on to that, I couldn't agree more. I've met some pretty rad people in the Sassy community, both virtually and in person. I've been fortunate enough to be at a few of those in person, in real life events. Had to learn what IRL meant at one point because, again, boomer. But I couldn't agree more, Sleep. I love the community, and it's what really drew me in was getting to experience one of my passions, which is snowboarding, with a bunch of other passionate people. And they're not pros, but dude, there's some rippers in the Sassy community. First of all, like some legit rippers could go pro if they wanted to, probably don't actually want to for one reason or another. But also just those people that just love the mountains or love the shred or just love being outdoors. I mean, that's some of the stuff that I love the most about snowboarding. So getting to connect with them and be, granted, it's I'm not a gamer, so I can't really compare it to the gaming community, but hearing Zach talk about that, I couldn't agree more with you. Like, that is such a cool connection, and it's a great comparison as to what we're doing with those guys.
Agree.
And gals.
And another thing I wanted to bring back to, and Keith, I don't know if you know too much about this because this all happened this week. So in the Shredding Sassy community, we have a treasury of funds that we can kind of use however we want. And we actually were lucky enough this week to sponsor a youth snowboard team out of Minnesota. They're called the Minnesota Select Snowboard Club. It's an up and coming snowboard team of riders 13 and under. There's 6 of them, and we paid their competition entry fees for the whole year. So we'll be one of their key sponsors. The Shredding Sassy Social Club, not the brand itself, but the community of Shredding Sassy sponsored them. Just so stoked, man. They showed us a whole video. It is a guy in the community is the head coach for it. He's also a professional wake surfer. Shout out Dan. But I mean, it's just so cool to provide that. And what he said, like his mission was at Minnesota Select Snowboarding is to give people that ability to snowboard that didn't have that ability to before. So looking at yourself as a kid, you mentioned that, not everybody has the opportunity. Not everybody has the funds to go out and snowboard. He wants to make snowboarding like baseball for kids in Minnesota. He wants it to be like, hey, you've never thrown a ball before? Hey, I'm signing you up for baseball anyway. Get out there and learn. He wants to make that snowboarding. So I'm really excited to be able to sponsor these kids, get them in the competition. His daughter's a little shredder. She was on a bunch of podiums on the regional scene last year, made it to nationals, and I guess she crushed it. She was the youngest in her class age wise. So this year, hopefully we can get a podium out of her as well at nationals. That'd be pretty cool. But if not, it doesn't matter. It's just doing it for the kids, and just such a cool thing to be a part of. I'm really excited to watch them grow this year and continue to provide value to them if we can, as a social club, as a collective of people interested in progressing our sports, interested in growing as people, man.
Dude, that's sick. I can't believe I missed all that. I mean, I've been pretty busy in IRL stuff, but I'm actually really bummed that I missed any and all of that, and just now I'm hearing about
Keith, it just happened in like the last 3 days, dude. You're good. You guys have been training. You're at camp this week. It happened in the last 3 days. But I'm glad the live reaction. I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dude, so cool. I mean, that's what it's about. Like, we all know the industry is rough. And the fact of the matter is, it's not cheap, just like what Zach's saying. You know, there's plenty of memes out there that make fun of it. And the fact that there is something out there that actually allows for someone to get the chance, maybe for the first time, or to just be able to get out there, have fun, or get into like a competition setting. You know, we're changing lives one day at a time. You know, I'm so proud to be a part of that. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To add to that, I mean, for me, just in my life, a sense of community has always been a huge motivating factor for me to get out of my comfort zone and try new things. You know, to name a few, the Paralympic community has been insane with just how it's opened doors for me and changed my life, because growing up, like, I was kind of the odd man out. And then when I started riding with people that had physical disabilities that were in the same boat as me, but like came from all these different walks of life, and we ended up in the same place because of this shared passion of getting out and snowboarding, like, that creates this sense of community, of camaraderie that we really do need as human beings. Like, one of the basic human needs is just like a sense of belonging, a sense of community, right? When we work together, we can do so much better than anything that we can accomplish on our own, right? And communities play the biggest role in that. You know, I had the Paralympic community, I had the snowboard community, and hearing, you know, news like that just gets me amped, and it makes me stoked to be a part of Shredding Sassy Social Club, because, like, it's not just a community that provides like a sense of belonging, or just like a basic community where you can meet people and share those same interests. It does provide that, but it actually goes a step further and makes active change happen in its community. And hearing, you know, something like that we're actually, you know, sponsoring kids to get out and compete and make it accessible for them, like, that's what changes the world. Even if it's just a little bit at a time, even if it is, like he said, like one life at a time, that's something that can have a huge lasting change. And I'm like kind of a huge example of that. Had I not been given communities growing up that helped push me, that helped encourage me, you know, that gave me the chance to pursue a dream of snowboarding, I never would have taken this on, because it's not something I could have done alone. It's not even something I could have done with my family. Like, I needed people to help step in, to encourage me, and to help, you know, open some of those doors. And so that's why, that's why Shredding Sassy is just a notch above the rest. Is like, it's not just a social club. It's not just a group of people who love something. It's people who want to see the world be a better place, and people who are willing to make that happen. So that's rad news to hear.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
And I mean, the team behind it, they're out there. Obviously, you know, Ollie, Josh, Jay, Grab, they're doing the darn thing, but you know, it's the connections in the community that have made it as big as it is. And I want to say as big as it's going to be. It's going to be huge, and it's all going to be based on that community and their drives, their passions, and what they're bringing to this world. So, you know, hats off to the whole community.
Bro, I couldn't have said it better. Definitely couldn't have said it better. And you know, it's the community that fires me up. Like, we've been on enough X spaces where I just get fully amped talking about the community. And I mean, we sponsored Ash this last week, didn't we, to get him to his next comp as well. You know, Ash is making a fight for the next Olympics in surfing, and it sounded like he was kind of on the fence whether or not he was going to go to this qualifier, not a games qualifier, but the next step qualifier, and it sounded like it came down to finances, and it sounds like us, along with some other entities out there, are going to make it happen for him, which is a chance that he might not have been able to take. So, I mean, it's so cool. Like, and 99% of the people we've never met in person. It's just this camaraderie brought through all this whole virtual world. Dude, it's sick.
Absolutely, man.
So sick.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to find out what's next. There's a lot coming down the pipe. Only green, only going up, all up from here. So excited to be a part of it. But Zach, man, tell us what's next for you. What's next? You're moving to Utah, just outside of Salt Lake, outside of Park City. We got you called it an off year. Not a whole lot going on. I know you're going for that globe. You got a tough competitor here right now. The way I see you facing on the left-hand side, got a tough competitor going for that same globe or a couple of those globes. But what's next, man?
Yeah, I mean, next, definitely finish taping up some boxes so I can get out here and get settled in. But pretty shortly after that, I got quite the 2 weeks ahead of me. I'm headed back to finish packing. I drive out all day on Thanksgiving. I'll get here the night of Thanksgiving, pick up my dad from the airport. We'll unpack the next day. And then the 25th, which is the day after that, I jump on a plane to go to Amsterdam for our first World Cup. And so, we'll be headed out to the Netherlands pretty soon to get back in the gates and have a shot at the podium. And, I mean, like I was saying earlier, what's next for me is laying the groundwork. Like, I am ready to hit these next few years hard, and I'm able to do that because I have the right support system now. And like Shredding Sassy, even though I haven't been able to be near as active as I've wanted to be in the community, just because life has been so crazy for the past, few months for me, and even years, it's still just one of those added factors of like what gives me confidence to make these big decisions, to move my whole life to a new area so I can actually have the lifestyle that I want. It's because I have the right people, and it's because I have access to the right communities, and Shredding Sassy is one of them. So it's definitely pretty awesome to have that feeling, like I said, of like, I get to be the athlete that I want to be now. And that's my focus for the next 3 years, is like, I now actually have a shot at being the person that I want to be, at really like attacking my goals head on the way I've wanted to. And so, I mean, I'm just going to soak it all up and take as much advantage as I can for these opportunities ahead.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm stoked to be on the ride with you, brother. Hey, real quick, give everybody a shout how they can follow along throughout this journey for you, would you?
Yeah. Great mention. So for me, one of the biggest things is just continuing to build that social media, right? That's what sponsors want to see, is they want to see the platform. They want to see that I am able to engage with communities and get people to learn more about our sport and more about me and what I do. And so, it's free. You can jump on Instagram and press a couple buttons. The Mountain Miller is the tag that I have. And so following me along there will help me tremendously, just because it's a small thing that you can do, but those numbers really do add up, and they make the next sponsorship, they make that next opportunity come a little bit easier. So that's huge. And just following along, drop comments whenever you see my posts, but reach out. Like, I am definitely not a famous pro athlete by any means. I'm not, inaccessible because I'm too busy, like, living this crazy life. I'm just a dude who loves to snowboard, and that love and that passion has opened up some crazy doors, and it's given me a life I'm very grateful for. And so, if anyone ever has any questions about my disability, about the road I had to take to get to where I am today, or just about snowboarding or the Paralympics or anything, like, hit me up, send me a message, drop a comment. I definitely want to be a good athlete, and I want to have success. I want to stand on the podium, right? I want to chase those dreams, but I also want to have a legacy, on my sport. I want to have people in my corner that are stoked to be around me. I want to leave the world a better place. And so, the best way to do that is to create connections. So that's what I'm here to do, man. Reach out. Let's talk about stuff.
You heard it first. Thrash Talk. Slide into Zach Miller's DMs
Yeah.
at the Mountain Miller on Instagram. Let's go.
Dirty. And what we'll do is we'll get you a seat next to Lionel Messi at the next ESPYs, dude. So let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. Appreciate you coming on, man. I had a question for you. I lined it up at the very beginning when we started talking, but now I can't throw it your way. So I'm going to throw it your way, but don't answer. Okay. Don't answer. If you had to give up one, would you give up gaming or snowboarding? Don't answer. We can move on. We can end this. We can end it. Let's end this thing. I don't want to know. I don't think you can give up either. I thought about it at the beginning. I was like, oh man, he's into gaming. I wonder if he had to give up one, what he'd give up. But it sounds like gaming is just, such a part of you. It's something that it's beyond me. It's not something that I experience and that I understand. So just seeing that passion in you, man, it's so impressive. And I'm knowing that you have that passion there. I know that you carry that same passion in snowboarding, and that's why you're going to continue to do great things, man. So it's just been a pleasure meeting you.
Well, I do appreciate that, but I will actually answer your question briefly. I would give up gaming to have snowboarding, man, and I'll tell you why. It's actually a pretty simple. I don't have to. I can have both. I would give up gaming to have snowboarding, because as much as I love games, as much as I've gotten connections through them, snowboarding has taught me so many more lessons in life, and it's led to some connections that aren't just like best friends. They're like family. They're ride or dies. Snowboarding started out as just something I wanted to do for fun, and to this day, it is one of the reasons I've been able to travel the world. It's the reason I've been able to meet people from tons of different cultures and learn about their lives and where they came from, and tell stories. And I've learned so many lessons too, of just having such an early start in sports and traveling and competing. I had to grow up pretty quick. I had to learn some tough life lessons, a little bit sooner than a lot of other kids my age did. And as a result, I'm a much more mature person, and I've just have a better sense of what I want out of life, because I've been able to see so much of it. Snowboarding has given me so much perspective, and it's given me connections with people that aren't just teammates, but at the end of the day, they are friends, they are family. They're people that genuinely want what's best for me, and having people like Keith too, where I can go and compete and risk my life for an achievement, but then later that night I can sit down and be like, dude, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm scared. I'm 22 years old, and I feel like I have so much stuff that I need to do, and I don't even know where to start. And to have someone, like Keith, he's literally sat down time and time again and just been like, dude, take a second, look at where you are, look at what you've done. It's okay. You're actually doing pretty well for yourself. And, having that is something that, gaming couldn't really give me. A face-to-face conversation with someone I have seen the world with, someone I have experienced my peaks and valleys with, and been able to have that heart to heart of hey, I'm here for you. And, even though we were in each other's eyes because of snowboarding, it's able to really show itself in a lot of other aspects of my life. So, snowboarding is, that's the main thing, that's the thing that's really given my life its purpose, really.
I think that's the perfect way to close this thing out, man. Keith, give it to me. Let's close it down.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I appreciate it, Zach. Thank you for all your kind words. It's been an absolute pleasure to rip the world with you, you know, thrash all over the planet. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you and to continue on this journey with you. Thank you for your time. Sleep, as always, man. You are the host with the most. Always appreciate your time as well. And I know you give a lot to the community and to this project. So super stoked to be on Thrash Talk with you. And yeah, thanks, boys.
Heck yeah, man. Hey, Zach, crush it this year. Keith, you too. But I might be a bigger fan of Zach right now. I haven't decided yet, man. I have to start who I'm cheering for. You guys are teammates. We'll have to. I can cheer for both y'all. But
it's okay.
Hey, thanks, Zach. I appreciate you. Have a good
Thanks for having me, guys.
Have a great season, man.